ask you, did you take a look at the link I just sent you?
I saw a bit of a highlight yesterday from that,
Yeah,
man, and that's why, man, I'm so. If it was anybody else except that guy, if it was anyone else besides Vinny, their leg would have been destroyed.
so for some context, I don't know, I haven't been doing a very good job of paying attention to the UFC Fight Pass grappling circuit myself, but Vinny Megalish and Craig Jones went at it the other night, and then that was the gnarliest heel hook I've ever seen ripped. Apparently his knee's okay.
No, it's
It was
weird
like,
because Vinny's
yeah.
always been like, um, his knee might be okay. I don't know about his ankle though.
I watched. Chael posted another video of Vinny and Craig Jones like talking after. It's like apparently his knee is fine. He's standing. It's his ankle that's absolutely like demolished. So it's crazy to me that he just ate that and didn't like he finished the match. He was going to try to finish the match anyways until he realized it was like, oh no, I can't.
Well,
It stopped my nightmares.
there's no way in hell that guy's gonna quit. He's tough, man.
No,
He's been
clearly.
around. He's been around forever. He's a
No,
tough guy, man.
I
You
was
know.
this one to see his UFC run when I was originally watching, but well, not disappointed per se. I mean, like he made sure he's competed at all the highest levels, like whether it's mixed martial arts or like yeah ADCC and whatnot. 100%.
I mean, he's never like he's done well for himself. He's always been in the top tier of competition, but I think he's won a bunch of championships. But he's not like
Mhm.
he's considered one of the best of all time, especially no gi. But at the same time, he's come short a few times. He doesn't have as many championships as some of the other bigger names. You know what I mean?
Fabricio Verdum comes to mind in terms of just like really well accomplished jiu-jitsu practitioners. Oh, obviously, how could I? Well, I mean, no, actually, no, Damian Maya, Jacques Souza, obviously. But no, I'm a huge fan of Vinny's style. Either way, I'm a huge fan of Vinny's style. So.
Yeah, that was funny because remember when we were doing that "Who Am I" in Jiu-Jitsu post that we did, and you said who who your
Yeah, my
who your inspirations were, and the
yeah.
guys it was the guys that take the most risk ever. Sakuraba, Genki Sudo, and what was the third one?
The third one was Jeff Glover.
Jeff.
Jeff Glover.
Oh my goodness! I'm like, no wonder you compete the way you do, and you roll the way you do.
Are you
Oh
kidding
my
me?
goodness,
Are you
man.
kidding me? I didn't get into this just to hold on, like take a guy down, hold 2 points and win. Even though that's how like my last victory came. It's like no, I got into this because like this looked cool, and those are the guys I was watching. They're like, oh man, are you
Hey,
kidding me?
but man, you live by the sword, live by the sword, die by the sword, right?
There you go. If you don't believe in it, like come on, you got to be willing to die for the things you believe in. That's just me.
I think
That's just me.
listen, man. There's nothing wrong with having that style. A more risky risk taker type vibe, but it's got to be things that you practice. You know what I mean? You can't just
Yeah,
be. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Those guys make it look easy because they do it all the time, and I'm pretty sure they drill it too.
Oh, yes,
Like
yes, yeah.
even like they may not be the best, but they're dangerous. See what I'm
Mhm,
saying? Like that's some of
mhm.
those guys. Like they're not the best of all time, but they were very dangerous because at any moment they can do something crazy and you know what I mean and catch you and you wouldn't see it coming. For example, the Imanari, right? Imanari and the Imanari roll.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, just
100%.
dive on the leg. You know, shoulder dive roll into behind reverse heel hook. Man, how many times did he do that to people? Like, but is he like one of the best MMA fighters of all time? I don't think so.
No, no, no.
But he
But
was
it's like,
dangerous. But
yeah.
he was very dangerous. You know, I think this is where same thing with where Ryan Hall fits in the UFC kind of roster, right? He's not
Okay,
he's not one
yeah.
of the best fighters. He's not the best overall fighter, but he's very, very dangerous with his leg locks, right? So, no,
Mhm, mhm.
he competes he competed once, I think, in the last 2 years, because nobody wants
I,
to get their knee destroyed by him, you
it
know.
seems to be there's like
And
a little bit of attention
come on,
there.
and who did they give him? BJ Penn. Come on, man, stop giving these older guys to the young guys. Like it's I hate that. I hate that so much because it's like that American mentality where, oh, you gotta like basically pass the torch on. So
Yeah,
they feel the need to put guys that are like older with a new up and coming generation. I'm like, man, that's so. It's like that's really that's how you thank the guys that paved the way. You
to see feed
they
them to the
become
wolves. Yeah,
sacrificial lambs to the young up and coming monsters. Come on, man. Like the Anderson Silva, okay, you throw him to Adesanya, and the only reason why and Anderson didn't
oh
get beat up
right,
further is because of Adesanya's respect for him as a like a hero. You know what I mean? But you see a lot of
it's
these
true.
like, okay, when BJ Penn, man, that guy's he was amazing in his time, but I think he's ruining his legacy. Like,
One of my
okay,
heroes coming up.
they throw him against Ryan Hall. They throw him against that young Mexican kid. Oh, what's
Oh
his
yeah,
name?
you're Rodriguez. That was the
Yeah,
first
yeah,
time he.
Rodriguez. I'm like,
Oh god, that
okay,
was
come
brutal to
on, man.
watch.
Why stop throwing this guy who clearly is way past his prime? Why? Just so you can like build the next generation? You don't need to do that. They're gonna do that on their own, man. You know what I mean? If you
I'm
are
not gonna lie.
if you're
Like
destined uh,
be
to
champ.
become someone, then you'll
Yeah.
get there. You don't need. I don't like that they need to bring down the older generation guy.
Mhm.
It's really ridiculous because oh a prime Anderson versus a prime Adesanya would have been a completely different fight.
It's
But it's
true.
always
It's
so
true.
we want to see these are heroes of one era versus the heroes of another era. I'm like, this is complete lunacy. It's ridiculous. You know what I mean? Because by the
It's
time
yeah.
a young guy comes up, usually the older guys past their prime. It's very rare that you catch him in that midpoint where the older guy is still, you know,
Competitive, or at least physically
competitive.
competitive.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
if you're talking about a guy who's in his early 30s, right, and technically in the towards the middle or end of his prime
Mhm.
versus a young up and coming, okay, that's a more competitive fight. But when it's a guy that's way past his prime, closer to his 40s, facing a guy in his mid 20s, come on,
It's
it's
not the same.
very
You're running off
rarely,
name value.
very rarely does the older guy win. You know what I mean? Very rarely.
It's it's I guess there's a lot. That's part of the reason why like I don't know. It's so it goes without saying, but GSP is so widely respected, right? Like he's gone through like
Yeah,
what
but
three generations of mixed martial artists, and then he came back to also get the middleweight title.
no, man, not a good example at all.
That's a hot take and a half. And package that. What do you like? No, I think that's why he's great.
How old is GSP?
I want to say mid 30s. I don't know the number off the top of my head right now, but he's about mid 30s.
He's still in his prime. As far as when he fought, he only took three
Yeah,
years off, and when he
yeah,
fought Bisping for the title, still in his prime,
that's
still in
true.
one of the best shape of his
Okay.
life, and he has experience
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
game. Been a champion for a long time, and he's not like old. He's not old.
Okay. Okay.
You know what I mean? And he didn't take a lot of damage.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He
So I
had a
guess Andrew,
couple of tough.
yeah.
His last couple of fights at welterweight were tough, but some of his other fights were cakewalks, man. Like he just smart game plan, took minimal damage. So
Okay,
I
well,
don't think I
you
don't
say
think
they're
I don't think it,
cakewalks.
I don't think he's a good example for this like newer generation versus old generation. I still think
Okay,
JSP is young enough to cause a lot of problems. He's very smart. He takes care of his body.
interesting. Okay, okay,
So he's not a good example for that. I'd love to
okay.
see him and Khabib, man.
Well, actually, you want to see that match actually occur,
Maybe as a catch weight, like
eh? Mm-hmm.
maybe 165, 160. That'd be fucking incredible.
I don't know
It
who I
would
take.
trust me. It would be like
I don't know who I take.
it would. I think it would do some pay-per-view records for sure.
I agree. I don't know who I would choose in that matchup. I
Another
really don't.
another another fight that would be huge would be like Connor versus GSP, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how Connor can beat GSP. You know what I mean?
I think GSP takes. I think I choose GSP quite handily in that matchup versus Connor
No,
versus. No, no, sorry, Khabib versus GSP.
it's just
I
the
think GSP
size.
edges it.
It's just the size. He's
Yeah.
so much bigger. GSP is so much bigger than Connor.
Either of them, actually. Yeah, well,
So
in theory, both of them. I don't know. I don't see. I think if GSP's takedowns and Khabib's takedowns kind of so like the wrestling nullifies each other, so to speak. I don't like. I think I still take GSP in
but that's the thing,
stand-up.
right? How do you
Yeah.
you know what I mean? How do you,
Hmm.
it'd be a very interesting fight.
I think so too. I definitely think so too. Otherwise, yeah, no. It's I woke up this morning. I saw that on my actually James sent me that match with the Megalish. So it's like my mind's just been on that like I don't know
Uh,
the
now
fire
you
the
know,
fire
now
the
you
fire
know.
got sparked up again.
Yeah, I just again, I love watching that kind of stuff at the pro level where these guys are
Mhm.
getting paid some money. I don't want to see that at an amateur level. You know what I
No.
mean? Now, someone made a point recently. I believe it was Robert Drysdale, and he had a good point. He said that, you know, back then, he could understand why the IBJJF put a ban on the heel hooks because, you're talking Brazil and maybe they didn't, one of the things that people don't have, and even today, it's the surgeries and the recovery and how you take care of damaged knees, right?
Mm-hmm.
If back then in early, you know, early 90s, right? If you got your knee mangled, you're probably done and you're going to be like limping for the rest of your life because maybe the surgeries and the therapies aren't what they are today, especially in the US, you
Yeah.
know. So I think you see a lot of guys who have, you know, damaged their knees in the UFC and in grappling tournaments, they eventually make comebacks
Mm-hmm.
because again, the medicine and surgeries and stuff are way better now. But I could see back then how they would want to ban or make it, illegal to do the heel hooks because it was damaging and recovery may or may not have been possible, right?
Mm-hmm. I
That being said, I still think that why take the risk in an amateur,
mm-hmm.
in an amateur level, on an amateur level. So IBJJF, why take the risk? Why would I want to mangle my knee? You know what I mean?
At what point do what like I guess on the amateur level, if like what if you were at the cusp? Like it's like this is like the championship match, or whether it's the gold medal or the bronze medal placing, right? Like when is it okay to start taking those risks though? Is the question I want to pose.
Pay me
Pay, pay you, eh?
money,
Okay.
pro, make a pro league.
Because in theory, if you get
Start a pro league. It's possible. The IBJJF, you know what I
oh, I see.
mean.
I okay. Put the
The
okay.
IBJJF should start a pro league
Mm-hmm.
in which you could almost like the UFC. You can set it up with weight classes and all that, and fighters and a championship belt and all that. But instead of like punching and kicking each other in the face in the cage, you just have a jiu-jitsu matches. So I think once, like for example, you you once you medal, once you medal or win a major, you get bumped up to the pro.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think you can do that. I don't see why not. Why not? And now the pro level guys, you can do like pay-per-view cards or online streaming, charge for that, and I'm sure it would grow and people would be interested and make the rules a little bit more exciting and make pay these guys. You know what I mean? And
Well,
then when you
I'm
go to
curious.
that level, then allow everything. I don't care. Allow all the
Nicholas poses
subs,
a
all the
Nicholas
subs.
poses a really good question here. How much is enough money to actually sacrifice your body? Because even if you, in theory, want that route of a pro like a pro grappling league, and you start paying people. What's the cost here? Like I know we're not in charge of it, but if we were just playing with hypotheticals and ideal situations, well, what would you
I'd have
prefer?
to. I don't know. I don't know because even in MMA, if you look at the entry level, you're looking at some guys entry level fight at 2 grand, 5 grand. That's peanuts, man. You
It's
know.
true. If you're only fighting three
But
times a year,
but if I
yeah.
was, I think
Can we time out here for a sec? I'm getting a little bit of lag.
um
I see. I got
um
you.
So I think it depends on where you are. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like if I'm just fighting and I'm competing and I get caught and it's like my first match in the league, I get caught in the heel hook, I'm gonna tap fast because you know, yeah, I may still have a chance to come back and have better performances. But if
Hmm.
I'm in a like championship fight, I may argue that a little bit more, you know what I mean? I may argue the position or I may try to escape because I'm in the title fight and it could be big money, right? So I think there's some context there as to how
Hmm.
much money is at stake and how much am I willing to argue. You know what I mean?
I want to cut like we have a topic for today, but I want to touch on later this week was how the BJJ landscape coming post COVID-19. I think that's actually really something worth discussing that I want to talk about come Thursday. And the other one was actually another interesting one that got brought up a lot was how you think world champions train and like how what they do to kind of hit that level. Thoughts on
Which
those
one you want to
topics?
start with the COVID-19 first?
Well, I mean, it's up to you actually. If we want to hit that today, we can change gears completely. I'm game.
No, I mean that's it's a hard one I think for everybody right now, and honestly, it's kind of hard to say. It's very
Mm-hmm.
uncertain. You know, where do we go from here? And it'll be interesting because I think our premiere and our uh, is supposed to mention something about how things are going to start going. They're going to go back to normal this morning. So we'll see what he has to say.
Oh, no kidding. Okay, fair enough.
So uh, competition training. Ooh, I think that the thing I get frustrated the most about that question is that I don't think people truly understand what that means.
Mm.
And I get a lot of people that fall into the category where it's like they think they're doing the right things, but they're not even remotely close to that, you know. Oh, I'm training hard. No, you're not. I don't think you quite understand what hard training is, you know, and there's a lot of people that fall into that category and it's just frustrating.
Let's unpackage that right there. What do you think? Okay, so when people say I train so hard, but they're not actually training hard, what do you see? What do you like, when you see when you
They're
see
not they're not sacrificing enough. You
Oh,
know what I mean? They might put in hard effort when they're there, but maybe they're just there three times a week.
I see.
Maybe they're not putting extra work on the side, like strength and conditioning. You know, again, they might be giving it all their effort during those three classes a week, but it's not enough. Not even close.
What
Keep
do
in
you
mind
think?
that the game has changed so much over the last 10 years or so from what it was in my time to what it is today. And it is truly a high level sport now. You know, you see the best guys in the world, like they're full timers. You know what I
Mhm,
mean?
mhm.
They're full timers. They're training 8 hours a day, every day. And some of them even have like personal trainers, dietitians, you know, people that monitor their food intake and doctors checking their blood work and they're training three times a day between hours and hours of just drilling, not even rolling, just drill, sequences, sequences,
Everything is deliberate.
sequences,
Yeah. Okay.
and then hard training at night, hard rolls, positional rolls, like they, doing everything possible, you know, to be at, basically you have no life. You just train and sleep and eat,
Robert
and I
Whitaker
don't
just
think,
came out
and
recently about saying he's burnt out from like doing all like he got to the level. It's like his success is undisputable, but like he literally like, he's just
yeah.
opened up about why he just took a time off. He's burnt out from doing it, and
Hmm.
I guess to hit that level, you got to be willing to actually like go through those kinds of emotions, right? It's
Yeah,
not
you
easy.
gotta you gotta sacrifice everything
Uh,
to be the best in the world. You have no life. Now, we're talking like the highest level, right? If we're talking at the highest level, that's You know, you basically don't have anything else. You live, breathe, sleep, you know, everything jiu-jitsu, right? But I mean, that doesn't mean you can tone that down a bit and have some success locally, you know, on your local city, province, state, whatever. You know what I mean? I think you can get some some success on that level, but I still think it ultimately takes a lot of sacrificing, scheduling. You know what I mean? And really, really, you know, taking your time to figure out where you squeeze in all the work that you need to do. You know?
Yeah, 100%. I so I guess, yikes. If we're going about all out sacrifice, and if we're going to like a global international level, like the all out sacrifice needs to be there. It's a basic. It is your full time job to get to that level.
You need so much
Uh,
support too, like from your teammates, from the academy owner, sponsorships, you know, because you got to fund your training somehow. Like, so you need like you could be doing a lot of private lessons on the side, seminars. I mean, we're talking like black belts here. We're not like, you know, up and coming blue, purple, brown. Man, that's even worse for those guys because basically you're sacrificing your whole life and everything you do just for that, and you may not be getting paid any money, so you need even more support. So it's tough, man. It's very tough. That's why, you know, if it was easy, like it's cliche, if it was easy, everybody would do it.
everyone would do
Well,
it.
it's not easy, man. It takes a lot of mental fortitude, you know, and the most every champion will tell you the same thing. Will give you the same answer. I sacrificed everything. I sacrificed my whole life, you know, and you know, no going out and party, no, you know, no taking time off, training through injuries, like it's all of that in one big giant package.
So I
You know,
guess,
but things are. But
yeah.
that being said, they're smarter now. You know, the athletes are smarter the way they train. You know, it's not like just roll, 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 try to kill each other. Yeah, that's part of it, but it's not the whole thing. People are smarter now, and so they are healthier. They're bigger, stronger, faster. You know, it does. Some of them are. We talked about this in our previous Insta live, where you know a lot of them are on PEDs, right? Performance
Right.
enhancing drugs, but you know
And just do a
that's
means for them just to train more, just to like stay at that
yeah.
level.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I guess this brings me. The segues actually nicely into our topic. Actually, our topic of the day. What during your time when you were like you talked about like hard training and whatnot. How did you train back in the day with your training partners? And like what like how did I guess how much I articulate this? Can you, like what was hard training like back when you were training? Back in a nutshell.
It was the old school way, the way jiu-jitsu, you know, even some academies still do the same thing, you know. You come in, um, you know, you do a quick warm-up, line drills,
Mm-hmm.
2 or 3 techniques are shown. We drill them a little bit and then roll. Roll, 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 roll. But there was, you know, very little emphasis put on strength and conditioning.
Fair enough.
Almost no diet to speak of, you know.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think when you're young, you can get away a lot with, you know, if you're young and athletic, you can get away with eating a lot of crap, but, you know, you can't sustain that your whole, you know, career.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Eventually, you know, people who are in better shape than you are going to eventually, you know, overtake you.
It's going to show.
But
It's going to show over tonight.
I think for me and a lot of the guys, remember, we talked about this before, it was a different approach.
Yeah.
You know, MMA was our main focus, not sport jiu-jitsu and so on, right? So a lot of us trained. I trained every day almost for like. I remember there was a 3 year span. There was a 3 year span, I think, between like maybe blue belt up to purple belt, or
Mm-hmm.
like purple to brown. I can't remember. My memory is not so good on that, but there was a 3-year span. I literally trained every day, uh, Monday through Saturday, Sundays off. And the only time I wouldn't train is if I was like sick or something, or some kind of snowstorm and I couldn't make it or whatever, right? So
More specific here then, because during this time period, you guys were like, it's clear you spent a lot of time there. But then, like, I'm not gonna lie, during my time at the gym, I overhear stories like people getting thrown through glass every so often. Or, like, yeah. So if you could touch on like what you guys are
yeah,
clearly
no,
training
a
hard,
lot of
but like,
a lot of us. I think back in the day there was a certain. I'm not saying that there isn't that today too. I think there is,
mm,
but there's a
mm,
certain level of grit and not wanting to give up
okay,
and not wanting to tap.
right,
And so we argued everything for two reasons. One, uh, will to keep going. Two, we didn't know any better. Like,
right.
we didn't know if arguing was good or bad until we got damaged, right? Because
Or when
again,
does
look,
that
that
damage?
I have to keep reminding everyone that we did not have full-time black belts with us.
Right.
A lot of the times, the guy running the affiliate or the academy was like a purple belt at the most,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, and then eventually it became brown and black. But in that initial kind of stage, a lot of us were just blue belts. Actually, we were running affiliates, or I was training at an affiliate uh, for our team. That was the highest belt, was a blue belt, teaching
I'm actually
classes.
really
And so
for my personal
a lot of
curiosity
the
before we
times,
move on from
yeah.
here. I mean, actually, wait, like your professor at the time, Shaw Franco, was he his black? Did he have his black belt then, or was he still on his way to getting his black belt?
No, he's Shafranco is Canadian. Well, I think he's got Trinidad. He may have been born in Trinidad. I'm not sure, but
Right.
he's you know, he was from Canada, a multiple time karate champion.
Oh, okay.
I believe an international karate champion as well. So
Oh,
he had a karate school,
it's
but
karate background. Okay.
he was very smart. Where, like a lot of us, I was training in a traditional school too. Remember, Taekwondo, Muay Thai, and so on.
Uh-huh.
We all kind of saw as like, oh, wait a minute, there's something here. And he felt the same way. He was open minded enough to go, oh, wait a minute, there's something here. And through some contacts and connections, I actually met him prior to him starting an affiliate. Like, I met him at a Carlos Machado seminar,
Oh, okay.
Carlos and Higan Machado seminar that we went to, and that's where we met. And then later on, Monkey and I were training at a judo club, and he's like, "Oh, a karate guy up the street is going to be bringing. I heard he's going to be bringing a Brazilian gentleman to do some seminars." And that was Master Silver Bearing. So when Monkey and I went there, we clicked with Shaw right away. With Master Silver, we clicked right away, and I'm like, "This is it." And then Shaw became an official affiliate, and then he started teaching like jiu-jitsu classes, and he got his blue belt, and then we started teaching classes like after his karate classes, right?
Okay.
And then we started from there and went on and on and on. And then very shortly after, Justin Bruckman and his crew showed up from Oshawa. So we started training together fairly early on.
Okay.
And then people came and went. There's a ton of people that came and went. And then eventually we got a purple belt that came and hang out with us, and he was awesome. And Felipe, he was amazing. He taught us a lot. And then and we had a couple. There was always like a few Brazilians that would come and hang out with us for a little bit, and then go back or move on to something else. But one of the big kind of influencers for us and helped us a lot was Dr. Pedro Albuquerque. He's now in Montreal,
Okay.
and he's a radiologist. So he's got a career, he's got a job, and he helped us a lot, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's
How did he help you guys as a like just like
well,
just training or like imaging?
no training. Like he was
Okay.
already he was, I think, always like one belt higher than us. I think he was
Mm,
already, he may have been a brown belt already, or a purple belt or a brown belt. I can't remember. And so, but he had trained jiu-jitsu since he was like 13 on and off with Master Silvio,
okay. Okay.
right? So, and he did judo a little bit as well. So he was very smart, and he helped us a lot. You know what I mean?
I don't know
Um,
how many bombs you just dropped on me here. There's like so many little like avenues to go down here
and
between
then,
like
yeah.
yeah. Please continue though. Continue. Sorry.
No, no, and then we all kind of progressed through the years, train. But there's definitely it was hard mostly because of the MMA. Like we beat the crap out of each other, you know. Like and I remember I told you the format back then. I used to come in 7 o'clock, an hour and a half of MMA training, and then an hour and a half of BJJ training. So it was like 4 hours sometimes a night of just training. So like I said, I did that regularly for a 3 year span. Like before that, it was like your average 3 or 4 times a week, and then after that, after some injuries, you know, trying to open my own academy, and then it became less, you know. But there was a period there where, you know, where I had the most success and had, you know, was doing really well both in the MMA realm and the BJJ was when I was like 3 years span where I was there every day, you know. And I don't want to. I mean, the people that were there, they can vouch for it, you know, and they know what I was doing in the training. They know what I was capable of, and you know how I was helping out the other fighters and stuff like that. So it was good times, man. Good times. But yeah, I have a few scars from some crazy stuff. And I know you brought up.
Okay.
I know you brought up the whole
Yeah.
like people's heads going through glass and stuff like that. Well, that was me.
Okay, you can't leave it there. What happened?
Yeah, that was me. Actually, I have some scars all over my head and eye and stuff from that.
Okay.
Almost cut off my finger too. I don't know if you can see the scar there.
Oh, you can see the scar. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. So that.
So I want everybody to take a guess. Who do you think I was rolling with?
Well, I'll speak for everyone. Was it Monkey?
You bet. So it was really strange because Professor Shawfranco had when we were the first academy he had was on Bathurst, north of Lawrence.
Okay.
And then everybody put Monkey. And then he moved to what we call the dungeon. He moved to a basement, like a basement place. Pretty small. It was a small place, man. On Young Street, north of Lawrence.
Okay.
Right, so he just moved from Bathurst over to Lawrence, from Bathurst to Young. But the weird thing is, he brought the old place had a garage door, and somehow I don't know if it's that garage door and another garage door, but he brought that garage door into the new place.
Oh, okay.
But he was using it kind of like as a divider, you know, but it was also capable of opening it up. And this was in the basement. It was indoors. Yeah. Like it wasn't like
I see.
The purpose of the garage door wasn't to be a garage door. It was just a divider.
Just split the mat in half. Yeah. Okay.
It was like a divider, and it was between like the area where you would sit, like the sitting area, where we would hang out, and then the mat area. You know, and I think for the most part, it was kept open. Okay. You know, and keep in mind you're rolling, but that the third half of the bottom of the door wasn't glass. It wasn't see-through. It was like metal. It was closed. It was only about like belly height, maybe a little bit higher, that the glass came into play. So you can see into the counter where people come in and where we would sit and hang out. You can see.
You can watch classes. You can see. You can also be
safe. Exactly. So Monkey and I, we were having one of our epic battles where, you know, nobody's giving an inch, and that happened quite often.
For some context, jiu-jitsu, or was this like
no, this is jiu-jitsu gi. Okay. Yeah, we were training in a gi.
Okay.
And we've had roles where, you know, like nobody wants to give up anything, you know. And luckily for me, back then it was competitive. Right now not so much. He eventually passed everybody in skill and ability. But back then I could still hold my own a little bit. And I remember, I believe either he came up on me off from the bottom from the guard, I think that either that or somehow, or we were arguing somehow for a takedown,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I went to like push him off, almost like stiff arm. I
Yeah.
went to push him off, and I turned, but I
Oh.
was too close to the window. So when I turned and I tried to fight off, my head went through the glass. And luckily for me, my head and arm went through the
Right.
glass.
Right.
That's why I cut my
Uh-huh.
finger. And and luckily for me, Monkey grabbed me and pulled me back because we were in the
Right.
gi. So he grabbed me and pulled me back. You know, but Shaw's like, of course, he was on the other side, and we were just training. I wasn't like a class or anything like that. I was like maybe after we were all rolling
I'll
and
say,
stuff.
God
So
bless. Like, could you imagine just sitting there and just watching
yeah,
you
no,
fly through a window?
I could have gone over or even cut my belly and stuff like that. So I'm very
Mm-hmm.
fortunate that he pulled me back. But I was so pissed off, man. I was so mad, because
Because he wasn't going to
I'm
get
like
that takedown.
this, in the corner, and I'm bleeding all over my hand, and then my fingers cut, and then I'm bleeding all over
Mm-hmm.
the floor, and then I'm like telling Monkey, just give me a minute, man, just give me a minute. We're gonna go back at it. I was so pissed off that we couldn't keep going, because it was one of those really good ones, a really really good roll. Like we were having a good time. And I was like so mad. I was like, no, give me a minute, just give me a towel. We're good. Shaw looks at me. Of course, Shaw was always the voice of reason for all of us, because we were crazy. Shaw was a really, really good voice of reason for a lot of the times. Like, no, you're not. You're done. Like, no, I'm good. I'm just, no, dude, you're done. Like, you're bleeding all over the place. So, we ended up like getting dressed and stuff like that, and Monkey took me to the hospital. I ended up with some stitches in my eye and some stitches on my finger.
Oh
Acted
my
like
God,
a
it's
acted
hilarious.
acted like a total baby, because I hate needles.
Oh, fair enough.
So I acted like such a baby. Of course, Monkey's laughing at me and making fun of me. Yeah, good times.
So you didn't get the takedown. You weren't close. Just give me 2 seconds. It's just a flesh
I
wound.
wanted to keep going, man. Yeah, exactly. I was like, let's keep going. Shaw's like, Professor Shaw's like, no way, you crazy bastard. You're done.
Fair
It was
enough. I
good.
think that's.
I
Oh man,
was more mad about not being able to continue than the fact that I was like cut and bleeding all over the place.
that's wild. How long were you off?
Not very long, man. No, a few days.
A few days? Yeah, go figure. A few days of stitches, eh? Oh, healed up quick.
Few
Okay.
days, and tape it and go.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I can't believe that actually happened. I thought it was
Yeah,
just
right.
hyperbole. I was like, oh, it's like someone actually like cracked the window. It's like, no, you flew through and had to go to the
No,
hospital.
my head and arm went through, and then Monkey pulled me back. Yeah.
Um, so does it
That's
get
only
wild?
one story. There's so many stories, man. Like,
Chris, Crystal's got a good question.
one one
How old
one
are you?
dude one dude banged his head against. We had no matted walls. Our walls were like
Mhm, mhm.
some type of wood in some areas and drywall in others. And a few people hit the walls and got knocked out. We had a couple
Oh,
of
okay.
knockouts where they banged the head against the wall. We
The
had a few of
evolution of padded
those.
walls. The evolution of
No,
padded walls came into play. No, no, he still just ran away.
no. We used to
That
do
wasn't until
ground.
the 2000s.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, please.
How old was I? Oh man, I can't remember. So long ago. I can't remember.
Do you have a time frame? Like, was this
I
mid
remember
20s,
training
early
sessions
20s?
sometimes, like when guys were getting ready for fights. I remember one time, me and Monkey, I think Monkey was getting ready for a fight, and Professor
Mhm,
Shaw and I think there's, yeah. So we were getting ready. Was getting ready for an MMA fight, and we were just doing
mhm,
nogi rolls. We were doing nogi
mhm.
rolls, right?
Okay.
And it starts off as nogi rolls, and then it ends up where we're full on slapping each other in the face really hard to mimic punches, but we didn't want to do it with
Okay.
clothes. We didn't have gloves,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
But so it started off as a nogi roll, and then ended up into a full like MMA fight with slaps.
Oh boy.
So it always escalated somehow.
It's like if I'm kind of playing something in my head, it's like a light slap just to show you're vulnerable. But it's like, did you just
Yeah,
slap me? I'm gonna slap you back, right? A little
Yeah, it
harder
is.
though.
And then it went up and then up and then up and then up. Yeah, it was crazy.
Before you know it. Oh my goodness. Like,
Yeah.
so wait, just for my sake,
I
sake
remember
of reference.
a lot of guys would come through
Mhm.
because we had a reputation for we already had a few champions. We already had an MMA, and we were building ourselves a nice little reputation for being a good MMA gym at the
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
And we got a lot of people come through. Oh, I want to be a fighter. Okay, go in that room. And let's just say they didn't do so well and then never came back. So we had a lot of that. We had a lot of guys like that because
I find that.
Shaw was smart. Like he realized early on that investing in fighters takes a lot of time and energy, and he wanted to make sure that there were guys that could handle that. They weren't going to quit. That they had
Right.
heart,
Right.
and so a lot of the guys like that got beat up and stayed. Became good fighters and became part of the team and stuff like that. Because that's ultimately the most important thing is fighting is heart. You got to have heart. You got to have
It
a no
takes a lot
quit.
to keep showing up to those kinds
You
of
got to have a no quit
situations.
attitude. You know what I mean? So he wanted to, especially if guys already had experience. So he would ask, "Hey, do you have any experience?" "Oh yeah, I used to box, or I had Muay Thai fights, or blah blah blah. Or I wrestled." Okay, you have experience. You're not completely new. We weren't throwing completely new guys into the MMA room. There were guys that were coming in with experience and wanted to venture off into to fighting MMA.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
they were it was like, okay, let's see what you got first. Go over there, and you get thrown right into, you know, thrown right into the lion's den and spar right away, rounds and rounds and rounds of
Sounds like it.
sparring. They didn't usually
Um.
didn't make it through the third round of sparring. They wouldn't make it through.
Okay, I gotta grill you on that one though. Okay, so is this a combination of all the factors I'm about to mention, or is it more like you guys going hard deliberately to test them, or is it, or okay, you were putting the pressure on them. It wasn't like we want to be
Fresh
nice to you and try to bring you up,
no, fresh meat, man.
freshman.
Yeah, fresh meat. We try to beat you up right off the bat.
I have my
Yeah.
answer to this personally speaking, but just curious. I bet I want to ask anyways. Like, do
Again,
you think that's
the
necessary in
different.
this day and
Listen,
age? If you want to
different,
fight though, in this day and
different,
age, in
different
this
times. No,
different
different times.
times.
Different
Okay,
times.
if you want to cultivate fighters now, it's a little bit different. Not
Yeah,
too different.
not too
Not too,
different, but
but
you
different.
know what I mean. But different.
I
Yeah,
feel you. Yeah, you don't have to actually concuss people or like hurt them or
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Different. We
I
didn't
guess.
just didn't know any better. Remember, everything was new. Everything was, you know, everything was. We didn't know what proper training was. We were like, I give Professor Shaw a lot of credit. I do because he was always trying to get us to bring new things. He used to get us to do a lot of like physical training. We would do like half hour of hard training, like physical training before the
Like,
sparring rounds.
like
So we would do,
calisthenics is
yeah,
like okay.
he brought
Mm.
in medicine balls and we did a lot of medicine ball work.
Oh,
And then we would do a lot of footwork, pad work, combinations, and then we would spar forever, right?
no, it's
So
funny. I see.
and
I
and
see
he
that a
was
lot in
and he
stages
was
streaming.
very smart. He was very smart with the sparring where he would tell us like his guys, his team, he would be like, guys, pitter patter sparring, no knockouts, right? Because he was trying to save our brain, you
And
know.
while the
So
formal education about
a lot of
CT wasn't out there, it was
yeah.
still
So
good. Yeah.
whenever it became like a knockout sparring session, it was usually like if you were getting ready for fights. There was some headgear usage, and or someone new came in and we had to test them to see if they really wanted to be there. But for the rest of the time, we did a lot of pitter patter sparring, just light contact, but a
Hmm.
lot of rounds. And we got really good at combinations, footwork, gauging distance, because we didn't really have to worry about getting knocked out. So it opens up your game. You can take more chances. You can take more risks. You can learn so much more from it, right? So he
You
was
mentioned,
he
yeah.
was very, very smart. He was always trying to get us to do new things, to try new things. He made it fun for us and almost ahead of his time sometimes. Where a lot of the stuff that guys are doing today, he was trying to get us to do it back then. Like not everything, but a few things. A
Like
few
what?
things.
Like
Or
please, yeah.
oh,
Like what?
the whole karate footwork. He was a karate guy,
But yeah. Okay.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
karate footwork is really, really good for like look at Conor McGregor and some of these other guys, the way they stand, the wider stance, right? So it's
Machida
harder.
in general.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
auto and but there's a lot of like these lighter weight guys. You see the way they move around and the way they have more of a karate stance, and it's
I
good.
see
I
this a
think I
lot
think it's the footwork was great. He used to do make us do a lot of footwork, and then we had a lot of influences as well. Come in. If we had a lot, we had every time we had someone new, it would bring a flavor to the training area, and it would be
yeah.
good because we can kind of feed off each other. So if there was Muay Thai guys, wrestling, judo guys, like we had a boxers, we had some boxers, so we would kind of like feed off one another and learn off one another and get better all around. You know what I mean? So we eventually became pretty decent all around, decent fighters. You know, so.
I want to take a quick pause right here. I want you to continue this train of thought. However, if anyone wants to, I want you to open the floor for questions if anyone has
Yeah.
anything to put in comments. But yes, no, I the karate style is actually I know what you mean by ahead of your time though. Ahead of his time though, in the sense that I see it in like my MMA coach Seiji. Like his style is completely unorthodox. To me, it's unorthodox to whatever I'm used to, right? Very Muay Thai,
He's
but he's
he's the
constantly
second
moving
he's the
in and out.
second generation after us, so he got like the best of all of that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we had another thing that Shaw was really good at, and I was fortunate enough to pick it up. Was he had I don't know if it was a system, but a way of doing pad work for MMA.
Hmm.
It wasn't your stand up Muay Thai pad work. No, it went everywhere, from combinations, footwork, head movement to the ground and pound. Like it went everywhere. And he had a few systems, a few things like he would want you to do in sequence and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Almost like drilling, where you do sequences. You go from striking to clinching to the ground, all with pads. So
He had mini
it,
systems to drill to get used to the transitional aspects
yeah,
of each.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So
Crystal
no,
has a really good question here. What's the biggest difference between BJJ and all the other martial arts you've learned?
well, come on. This is clear. The guard, the ability to fight off your back.
Uh,
This is what BJJ brought to MMA or no holds barred or whatever it is. It was the ability to be offensive off your back, and not only defend yourself, but also like attack from the bottom. This is what differentiates Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from all the other arts in combat sports. You know, so and the other thing is the self-defense approach. You know, um, I think based on I can only speak for myself because I've taken martial arts, of my whole life since I was 17 years old. I've been involved with martial arts. I've taken classes in multiple styles. I mean, I've excelled in a few and got the ranks in a few, but I dabbled in all kinds of stuff. Even capoeira, which I don't talk about in my history because it was like such a short, like I only tried it for a few classes and stuff like that. But I used to try, a lot of different martial arts. I love martial arts, and let's just say that there's a lot of hocus pocus. You know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff that clearly. And one thing I started to understand is like watch all these traditional martial arts and all the concepts and the thought processing and the movements and the katas and all this. I'm like, show me evidence, real, true video evidence that these
mm,
sequences are applicable in a real fight, in a real street fight.
keep it as real as
Show me,
possible,
please
basically.
show me how you all this block, strike, 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 block, strike, strike, strike. 10 strikes when the guy just threw one punch. Like he's just gonna stand there with his arm held out while you throw 20 strikes. It show me the evidence. Shut my mouth. Show me video evidence of any of these traditional martial arts. The way they're portrayed sometimes in its efficiency. You know, I'm not saying every martial art has something good. Every martial art has some aspect to it that is applicable. But sometimes when they're presented as an overall system, and you're like, come on, man, it's too much hocus pocus.
I
Where
want to. I
where
want to.
where where combat sports, martial arts that are based on combat sports, they can be tested.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Can you test it? Okay, so boxing, wrestling, BJJ, gi no gi. You know what I'm saying? Muay Thai. These have been proven. They've been tested to be efficient, right?
I want to grill you on
So
something that like your past like, with karate and whatnot, because karate, I feel personally speaking,
I did
doesn't like.
taekwondo, which is what, but I did ITF Taekwondo, International Taekwondo Federation. They're different than the WTF, World Taekwondo Federation. Like they have
Oh, I
different
know. It's,
approaches,
well,
right? They
WTF is
have
very
different
Olympic style,
yeah, yeah.
versus
Where
ITF
where
being well, I actually
ITF
yeah,
ITF looks more like karate, you know.
looks more. Sorry, you cut off for a second. One more time.
Looks more like karate. ITF
I see. I
Taekwondo
see.
looks more like karate. There's a lot of similarities because the gentleman that General Choi, I believe his name was, he, I think, trained in Japanese karate as well,
Okay.
right? He did either he spent some time in Japan or he learned from Japanese karate masters, and then he went to Korea and then blended what he learned with, you know, karate and traditional folk kind of styles that he learned in Korea, right? And then they kind of mashed them together into what the ITF Taekwondo is like. So there you'll see a lot of similarities between Shotokan Karate and
Mm-hmm.
ITF and the ITF, the International Taekwondo Federation style.
Was the striking karate style that you learned from Shaw, was that also Shotokan or was that
Yeah,
Kyokushin?
Shotokan.
Shotokan.
Shotokan. I
Okay.
think those two are more applicable. I think. No, not again. Nothing against all the other karate styles, but
Mm-hmm.
I think those have kind of proven to have some success in the MMA realm, right?
Well, what is like a
Like
what is it about the styles?
Even Leo Tomashita. I know he says it's his dad's style and blah blah blah, but it's 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 Shotokan.
What is it about Shotokan that differentiates between Kyokushin and the other styles? Because I've seen like high level like international competitions and this I forgot which one, but one of them you can't actually hit the
Well,
head, but you can head kick. It's very yeah.
yeah, Shotokan's like that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I
I
think
guess
that the problem with this, that's hard to kind of say whether a style, you know, is more applicable than the other. The problem is the rules of which they played their sport at. You know what I
mm-hmm.
mean? So yeah, Kyokushin, you know, they're very tough. They prove themselves to be tough guys, and they have really good techniques, and you know, but their style of fighting is strange to me only because okay, we're gonna stand in front of one another and beat the crap out of one another, but I can't punch you in the face, but I can kick you in the face. Okay, well, kicking someone in the face takes some real skill, first of all, and it's easier said than done. And if you're in that close proximity all the time, where you're just body shot, knee to the body, leg kick, body shot, you know, you have to create distance in order to, you know, kick people in the head. And yeah, there's plenty of you know, like Kyokushin head kick knockouts. But when I'm I don't want to sound like a hater, but when you take one element out, it changes the
Mm-hmm.
game.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that you can't punch in the face changes the way
The
you
dynamic.
play the dynamic of the game. So I'm not knocking down the art itself. Never. It's not the art. It's okay, the sport and the rules and how you follow that, and you know, how does it make it applicable or not. And so this is where things get, you know, confusing. But is it a tough style? Oh yeah, man, it's a very tough style. You have to be very tough to compete in that sport, you know. But
I
it
think
just,
that yeah.
to me, like for example, I'm a counter striker, always been a counter striker. It doesn't make sense to stand in front of someone. I'm like, okay, let's go to toe and see who's toughest. Yeah, I can do one. I don't mind doing that once in a while to prove that I can, but I wouldn't want to do that all the time, right?
It's not good.
So again, but the same thing with point karate or whatever. You know, your wide stance is not very good if you start to add leg kicks,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's no leg kicking allowed in the point karate, right? So you're gonna take a lot of damage to the legs if once you throw that. So when you start taking elements out, it just changes the way you play the game, and you can't argue whether or not that style is more efficient than another, right? Unless you throw them into the MMA, right? And then okay, and then you can start to see, you know, who really can hold up. So we got 4 minutes left. So,
But just to put a cap on
man,
that,
I
it's just
hope I'm
like
not offending anyone out there. I know there's some guys that train those karate styles. Don't hate, man. I'm not trying to hate. I'm just giving my perception of the rules, right? I don't hate the style. I just don't like the rules of the sport you play, right?
I grew up doing WTO Taekwondo, so to kind of a parallel to this point, it's not like it was completely like it was not practical for actual combat sports, competitive combat sports, but there's a lot of tools that I gained from that skill set that are highly applicable. Like the spinning back kick
It's
is one of those things.
as
Keeping my
long as
head,
no, listen. As long
yeah.
as people understand that it's only one piece of the puzzle,
Mm,
right? It's not. Uh, it's it's incomplete in the approach of overall combat. Overall, whether it's like street fight or self-defense or fighting in the ring or a cage, it's an incomplete system, right? And see, even Muay Thai, man, I love Muay Thai, incomplete system, right? Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, incomplete system. These are all incomplete systems. These are puzzle pieces, right? And if you combine them all properly, you become, this is, and even MMA today is kind of weird because of the rounds and, what I'm saying, like the gloves, the weight classes, all that, right?
what's Joe Rogan going on about? Fighting a football field, no time limits.
I don't know. Just run around for
uh,
3 hours until you get tired. And okay, now we have to actually fight now.
here you go. High level strategy. This is real chess.
1 minute left,
Otherwise,
everyone. 1 minute left. Any
concluding notes before
questions?
while we're out there, I just want to say next episode Thursday at noon.
Yeah, I'll explain on the things after that. You know what I mean?
Sounds good. We'll keep it to there. Otherwise, no. Another successful episode in the books.
Uh, Shaw was a good place to train back then for MMA, definitely. Where's the best to train for real fight, self-defense, with weapons, etc.? Man, I'm not getting into that. Not getting into the whole weapons thing. That's a whole another madness thing.
Topic in itself.
Yeah, so no, I'm not getting into that.
This Thursday, BJJ and COVID-19. What the landscape's going to look like after.
Peace. We gotta go forward.